What's up everyone, Eber here with Hardware Canucks, and welcome to an interesting camera comparison between the Google Pixel 3 and the Razer Phone 2. Now, this is by no means a full head-to-head comparison. In fact, I still have to spend more time evaluating the hardware and my experience using both of these devices, so stay tuned for my reviews or individual reviews on both these devices in the next few months. But my recent trip to Beijing, I took both these phones with me to test the camera performance because, interestingly enough, these both cost $799, and I thought, it would give us a unique perspective as to what these phones could offer, given that they cost exactly the same, because both of these devices are tailored towards a different type of demographic. So let's check out the results right after this.
One of the best gaming headsets is now available through Massdrop. The PC37X has fantastic drivers, incredible comfort, and the best microphone in the class. Plus, they look awesome for a gaming headset. Check out the drop, linked below.
Alright, so before I show you the results, I do want to mention something. So remember how I said I took both these devices with me on my recent trip to Beijing? I did, and I performed a lot of camera tests between the two, but on my way back, Michael decided to accidentally factory reset the Razer Phone 2. So it literally just wiped all of the pictures that was taken on the Razer Phone 2, which was really depressing. It was quite a terrific experience, actually. So I got my way back to Toronto, and I just had to reshoot my camera comparison. So yeah, that's where we're going to leave it at. Alright, so specs-wise, the Pixel 3 features a single 12.2 megapixel rear-facing camera with an f1.8 aperture. The Razer Phone 2 features dual Sony IMX 12 megapixel sensors at different focal lengths, so one of them is a standard f1.75 lens, and the other being a telephoto f2.6 lens. The Razer Phone 2 has OIS on both lenses, whereas the Pixel 3 features OIS and electronic image stabilization. I'm going to start with the rear cameras and move on to the front-facing sensors later on. I shot these photos in auto mode with HDR turned on to get the optimal results. And at first glance, I noticed that the Pixel 3 retains a lot of the detail with subjects compared to the Razer Phone 2. And I think part of this has to do with the software processing. It's not overly done like LG, but rather razor sharp. No pun intended, by the way. With the Razer Phone 2, the detail is certainly present, but it comes a bit shorter when compared to the Pixel, especially when you zoom in and crop photos. The other thing that surprised me the most was how well the dynamic range was on the Razer Phone 2. It's really amazing to see how Razer has stepped up the quality game in that department. It's really hard to find any overexposed shots on the Razer Phone 2 simply because the HDR processing is done pretty well and you won't be disappointed with the results. I also want to touch base on the exposure, and as you're watching these samples, you'll notice that the Pixel 3 tends to underexpose in most situations compared to the Razer Phone 2, but with that being said, you can easily fix that through an editing app like Snapseed or Adobe Lightroom. Now in terms of colors, this is totally subjective, but I actually prefer the Razer Phone 2 over the Pixel 3, simply because Razer actually does a good job capturing the natural true tone colors of a subject depending on the lighting situation, whereas the Pixel 3 has a weird magenta shift, and I'm not a fan of that. I think Google's AI processing is trying to spice things up by increasing the saturation and making things look pretty compared to what's actually out there. Again, you may disagree with me on that, but at the end of the day, it's all about personal preference. Taking a look at low light performance, and I have to give this one to the Pixel 3. The images still maintain their sharpness and color without introducing a lot of noise, and it just looks awesome. The Razer Phone 2, on the other hand, does okay, but you lose detail and there is a little bit of noise in the images, and in some cases, it starts to introduce weird color shifts, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, I should also mention that the dedicated telephoto lens on the Razer Phone 2 comes in really useful if you want to zoom into subjects, since there's a lot more detail preserved compared to the Pixel 3's enhanced digital zoom feature, and that's to be expected. Portrait mode, on the other hand, certainly favors the Pixel 3, and no matter how hard you try, Google's AI is really good at isolating the subject from the background. Plus, it's super sharp, so you really won't be disappointed with the results. However, in some cases, I was able to notice that weird magenta shift that I talked about earlier. I mean, it's a cooler look compared to the slightly warmer tone on the Razer Phone 2, but just from a feature standpoint, Pixel 3 takes the edge here because the end results are again nowhere compared to the Razer Phone 2 in terms of the sharpness and the subject separation. Moving on to the front-facing camera test, and interestingly enough, the number of cameras on these devices are the complete opposite. So the Pixel 3 has 2 front-facing cameras, and the Razer Phone 2 has just 1. So specs-wise, the Pixel 3 features 8 megapixel sensors, with the standard one featuring an f1.8 aperture compared to the wide-angle lens that has an f2.2 rating. The Razer Phone 2 has an 8 megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture. And right off the bat, the Pixel 3 dominates the Razer Phone 2. I mean, when you look at all aspects like dynamic range, sharpness, colors, subject separation, etc., there is no denying the fact that Google has worked really hard in delivering the best overall camera experience. That additional wide-angle lens comes in really useful for group selfies if you're into that kind of stuff. Now with the Razer Phone 2, I feel like they could have tweaked the sensor a little bit because I think they're using the exact same one from the original Razer Phone. So if you take a lot of selfies, I would completely skip the Razer Phone 2 and get the Pixel 3. Portrait mode, again, favors the Pixel 3. There is great subject/background separation, whereas with the Razer Phone 2, let's just say it's completely unusable. Alright, good people, this is the video test on the Razer Phone 2 and the Pixel 3. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of jitter, I guess a lot of motion on the Razer Phone 2 compared to the Pixel 3, because the Pixel 3 looks like it has OIS and EIS, which means it's doing a pretty good job stabilizing this footage, whereas with the Razer Phone 2 it's just clearly not evident. So I guess the clear winner here is the Pixel 3. But this is also a good microphone test because it's a pretty windy day today in Toronto. Also really cold. I'm freezing my hands right now. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the microphone quality as well in the comments down below. So this is the front-facing camera test on the Pixel 3 and the Razer Phone 2. As you can see, there's a lot of exposure. I mean, the highlights on the Razer Phone 2 are completely blown out, whereas the Pixel 3 you can certainly retain a lot of that. There's also a lot more detail on the Pixel 3 compared to the Razer Phone 2. And of course the colors are a little bit washed out on the Razer Phone 2 compared to the Pixel 3. But it also gives you a good idea or representation on what the microphone quality is like on both these phones. And before I wrap up my thoughts, I do want to talk about my experience using the camera apps on both these smartphones. So the Pixel 3 was pretty straightforward. I just opened the app, I was just pointing at this, a particular subject, and I was able to capture that moment right away. Whereas with the Razer Phone 2, you have to actually spend some time to frame and of course make sure that you actually hit the shutter button, because in some cases it actually takes 2 to 3 seconds to complete that shutter, and that's just kind of annoying. At least in some cases, especially if you want to capture that right moment, you have a tendency of losing that with the Razer Phone 2 compared to the Pixel 3. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing that I want to mention is that there's a significant amount of delay with the live viewfinder on the Razer camera app. So if you are pointing at a subject, you are going to be noticing a little bit of delay in that regard. Now in terms of video performance, the Pixel 3 is the clear winner here because the sensor has both OIS and EIS. So the final results are very much usable. Colors are well balanced. It's got great sharpness, and it's not as washed out when compared to the Razer Phone 2. I should also mention that the Pixel 3 does have slow motion capabilities, whereas the Razer Phone 2 doesn't. And microphone quality, I'm kind of neutral in that regard because I haven't compared it to the iPhone XS and the other smartphones out there. So I want to hear your thoughts on the overall camera comparison. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments. And which one did you actually prefer, considering both these devices cost $799. Stay tuned for my full review on the Pixel 3 and the Razer Phone 2 in the next few months. I'm Ibra with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out our new Boot Sequence channel for the latest tech news and rumors, and you can also check out some relevant content over here. I'm signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next one.